This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO. How you doing out there? Joe Castello back with you. Going to talk a little NHRA Camping World Drag Racing for the next hour or so. So if you're out there hanging out, driving around, if you're watching on our WFO Radio mobile application, how great is that? I can just send you the YouTube link. You pop open the app and you are watching myself and Alan Reinhart. You're checking out the Ignition Show. How great is that app? Been going for over 10 years. I claim it to be the first drag racing related app that there was in our world, and someone's going to have to dispute it. But we've got big breaking news today, just seconds away. Justin Ashley going to break a little news real quick. I got to tell you about the sponsors who make it possible for WFO, and talking with a whole bunch more as January is busy for a lot of people, Justin included, but myself included, like Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Last week we were on tape because I was at the Engine Performance Expo talking to engine builders and having a great time out there learning about all kinds of different aspects, seeing how many horsepower that LS build made over 1,000. You can still watch it at engineperformanceexpo.com, but just the common thread through the whole thing is everybody uses Total Seal piston rings. So thanks to Total Seal, and good luck in 2022. Samtech.edu, the next generation of drivers coming along great. What about crew members, crew chiefs, machine operators, EFI tuners, all you young kids out there? Seriously, guys, samtech.edu. Tell them you heard it on WFO. Call Brian Massengill. Kick a little tire. Simple as that. Samtech.edu. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure, ongoing all year long. I know some great drivers who have been through Frank Hawley's and gotten their license and gone on to great things. But it all starts out with the Dragster Adventure. Of course, you start, under $500, and you can go out there and drive dragsters and have a great day, and even maybe participate in a race. Go to frankhawley.com, give him a call, ask him how to do it. And then Marvin Rodak. Did you know that today is, what is it? International Gourmet Coffee Day? I know every day is some day, some sort of day. Like Justin Ashley announces big new sponsor on WFO Radio Day, but International Coffee Day. Call Marvin, 817-924-6821. Get yourself some gourmet coffee today on International Coffee Day, International Gourmet Coffee Day, because there's a regular coffee day. And that's what he's got. He's got gourmet coffee, and tell him that you heard about it on WFO, not just because of the stupid hashtag day. Call Marvin. And then a shout out to our great Patreons who helped co-host the Ignition podcast. Patreon.com/WFO Radio sent out 50 envelopes to our Patreons today so they can get their, their booty, right? What they get for being a patron and supporting WFO Radio financially. All right, let's get out to, I don't even know where this guy is, but I know who he is. He is Justin Ashley. He's going to break a little news. Reinhardt's going to be a little late today. He might pop on right in the middle. Okay, Justin, the press release has just dropped. Everybody is out there typing out what this is all about. Let's make it easy on everyone. Tell us the big breaking news.
Well, first of all, Joe, WFO Radio is the place to go when you're going to break the big news. So that's how you know that this is going to be big news, right? Because I'm up here talking to you on WFO Radio. But
I agree. Excellent point you're making here.
Announced that for the first 3 races of the 2022 NHRA season, we have a new primary sponsorship with Phillips Connect. Phillips Connect is the industry leader in smart trailer technology. They make all kinds of technology for large fleets, trucks, and trailers. So I am grateful for the opportunity and looking forward to representing a great brand to start the NHRA season and introduce Phillips Connect to the world of NHRA.
Congratulations. This is amazing. It is a beautiful, beautiful car because it looks so big and corporate. Let's take a look at the car, the scheme. It's over the top of us. But Justin, that is exactly what we need in the National Hot Rod Association. That screams major corporate involvement. And oh, by the way, so pertinent to what everybody out there, both in the Camping World Series and the Lucas Oil Series, is doing, going over the road with their trailers, switching out everything to LED lights, connecting to GPS. What are some of the things that Phillips Connect do? And talk about how you're going to push their product forward using the NHRA.
Yeah, well, the NHRA offers a great platform to be able to do that on both a B2C level and a B2B level. So we're really going to take advantage of that hospitality area and invite a lot of clients, existing and potential clients, out to the racetrack and entertain them. And, let's face it, the racetrack is a good place to get business deals done. And, Phillips has a number of different technologies, but everything they do is forward thinking. They're proactive. They have the most advanced technology in the industry. And when you look at some of the largest fleets in the world, whether it's, sensors to check someone's tires or sensors to check someone's engine, the whole goal is to oversee the operation of the truck and trailer, for time, for safety, and for efficiency. So they do a little bit of everything, and we know how effective their sensors are.
Well, amazing. And, Philips is a company that's been around a long time. And whether you've purchased regular light bulbs or their LEDs, amazing. They got ones that change colors. And that's like a basic guy like me. You give me a light bulb that can change colors, I'm all in. But this is higher technology and very important. Like, for instance, running generators to power all the lights and equipment. Like, if you can diminish that a little bit, that's actually very helpful. And oh, by the way, they last a lot longer.
Yeah, they do. I mean, you said it. The whole idea behind working with a company like Phillips Connect is that in the long run, you're going to end up saving yourself time, money, and saving lives because they place safety first. And, they have the utmost quality products. So, the whole idea, the objective behind everything is to put these companies in a better situation where they're able to make money. So, working with a company like Phillips really is an honor, somebody that really values culture. And that's something that we value in our race team, too. So we're excited about this partnership.
People are asking if we're live. I took 1 week last week. I was pre-recorded one time ever on this show. And now they're like, are you guys really there?
See what happens, Joe?
Yeah, it is what happens. But we are really here. And this is a big deal. Let's check out the tractor trailer. Justin, that to me, first of all, what a modern scheme. Did they present that to you? Were you involved in the creative process? I can imagine they're getting excited. I like the Rookie of the Year logo. You got Vitus C still on board and all your previous sponsors that are still on board. But just tell me about the all working on all this behind the scenes before you could even announce it.
Yeah, it obviously took a lot of hard work, energy, and effort. And I really have to credit my team. And when I say my team, I mean everybody from our side, from Rich Bailey, our director of business development, to Elin Werner, who handles our public relations, to Natalie Torrance, who does our social media, and Larry Williams, who does designing. I mean, this was a complete team effort. And, my hat's off to everybody, Jim Eppler, Amber White, Rob Phillips, and everyone from their team, because they had a specific vision, a specific design in mind. And you'll see, as you see in the car, they had these blue, circuit boards running through. And that's kind of the design we wanted to base everything off of, as you see it right there. And I thought it was a great scheme. They wanted to keep it slick, professional, but at the same time, make it cool looking and make it modern. And I think that, thanks to them, thanks to the folks at Phillips Connect, we were able to meet that objective and highlight Phillips Connect to the best of our ability, while also at the same time, showcasing Toyota and Lucas Oil and Vitus C Shot and Auto Shocker and Kato and all other sponsors. So, when that thing rolls right into the racetrack, you're going to know what it's there for. And I just love the whole design of it.
And there will be, as you just said, a presence at the track. So people who have questions about, hey, man, I got a trailer right down here. What can I do? What's possible? What's available? Those questions will be able to be asked and answered at the races.
Yes, that's exactly right. They're going to be there for a reason. They will have representatives at all the races. And in full transparency, Joe, this sponsorship is for the first 3 races of the season. But I think the special part about this sponsorship is the growth and the potential that we both have in mind. We have a vision for where we want this to go. And ideally, of course, we love it to run the course of this season, but even further than that, 2023 and beyond. We want to be working together for a long time. And, everybody at Phillips Connect sees the value in NHRA. And I think that speaks volume of them, but it speaks volumes of NHRA and the platform that they offer. So anybody who's out there who wants to talk technology for their trucks and trailers, talk to me. Let's see what we can do to make something happen.
And, big deals start off small. This is the first 3 races of the 2022 season, which is going to go down in history as one of the greatest in NHRA history. So who knows? Everybody loving it. Derek says it's slick. Chuck says, congratulations. Nice looking setup. Everybody liking it. But Derek out there said, hey, wait a second. You just said a name that might be pretty familiar to the drag racing fans out there. Jim Eppler. Now, he was at a couple of races last year, like kind of just, behind the scenes, doing some things, observing. Talk a little bit about Jim, and everybody knows Eppler for, milestones in the NHRA, but what about you? How did this come together? Talk a little bit about Jim Eppler, his involvement, and, how you guys got together.
Yes, how cool is this, right? Jim Eppler is Mr. 300, the first man to go 300 miles per hour in a funny car, and now he's returning to NHRA in a sponsorship capacity. He is the executive vice president of Phillips Connect, and our director of business development, Rich Bailey, has had a relationship with Jim for a long time. And, he was kind enough to make the introduction. And then we started our conversations really over a year ago, and just over the course of time, continued to develop our relationship and realized that we had the same principles, the same vision in mind. And, it's going to be great to work with a guy like Jim, who has a background in NHRA. So yes, Phillips Connect is new to NHRA, but working with Jim Eppler and working with Amber White as well, who works for Phillips Connect, who spent a lot of time with NHRA.
Yes.
They have a real business program to put into place to not only make this a sponsorship where you put your name on the side of the car, but to really use this as a marketing tool to drive sales for the company. So I think that, with all that said, we're all headed in the right direction.
You mentioned Amber White, who many people out there in the NHRA community might not recognize, certainly in the fan base, but behind the scenes, if you say her, previous name prior to getting married, Amber Vinson, who was on the marketing department, a beloved character in the NHRA, super sharp, and just goes to show you that some time in the NHRA builds this, like, I don't know how to say it, but it's this fervor, like it's with you for life is my point. When you spend a year, 2 years, 5 years in the NHRA working behind the scenes, she goes on to what some might consider, better things, corporate things, who knows? Yeah, she's NHRA forever. And what a great job. I'm real excited. All right, we got Alan Reinhardt out there, Tucson, Arizona. I'm going to bring on, are you okay with that?
Oh, I'm great. He makes me a little nervous. I get a little intimidated, but I'm going to be all right. We'll be all right.
It's the mustache, man. We've been trying to let. Here he is.
Intimidated Reinhardt. Me? Come on.
What's up, AR?
I am sorry I'm late. I was running some errands, doing some stuff this morning, and I just completely, to tell you the truth, I lost track of Tuesday. When you sent me the note, I went, okay, that's tomorrow. Oh, no, crap, that's today. So I hustled back to the shop. So I apologize for being late. I'm sorry that I missed Justin's big splash. I know a little bit about this because behind the scenes I've been talking to some people, and when they were working with the concept and what can we do. And I just want to add something to what Justin was talking about with Jim Eppler. His knowledge of NHRA, one of the most important things is he understands the access of NHRA and being able to connect at the racetrack. Okay. And Joe, you and I have had the conversation a million times. I love NASCAR. I know a lot of people that make a living in that world. I think they put on a heck of a show. I'm not bad-mouthing them at all. But if your goal to sponsoring a NASCAR car is that you want to connect with a fan that comes out to watch the races, how do you do that? But in NHRA, you tell that fan, you're welcome into the pits, come on by, swing by the trailer, Justin will get you hooked up with whatever, and you can get your information and you can make your contacts. And I think that was one of the big selling points. And because Jim has been out here as a racer, as a businessman, as a team owner, I mean, literally all the sport compact days, he understands the access that's available in NHRA. And so, okay, I need access. I need some place where my fans can come see my product. I need some place where I can make these connections, or where I can invite my big customers now, right? Come out for a day at the races. What's trackside hospitality all about? You get your customers to come out and enjoy a day at the races and have a part of what their race team is going through. All you need now is a young, decent-looking guy who can speak well, who's friendly, who people like. Well, look who we've got.
Do you know
it wasn't going to be me. I'm big, dumb, ugly, old guy. It wasn't going to be me. But I think, the whole package is there.
Justin?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do you agree with Alan being a big, dumb, ugly, old guy?
No. Well, yeah, that was really nice. And it's funny that Alan is on because I was talking with Amber White and Jim Eppler, and we spoke with Brian Loans yesterday, and we were talking about people within the NHRA, and Alan's name came up, and Amber and Jim were so complimentary about the job that you do there, and we all know that. We all know you're the best, but I thought that.
But Justin, I'm the voice of NHRA. One quick glance, and you know why I'm not the face of NHRA.
Not the face, just the voice.
Not the face of NHRA.
Maybe once upon a time.
What Alan's saying is, he hit it right on the head. The accessibility that NHRA offers is unparalleled. Where else are you going to go to a motorsport or professional organization where you're going to be able to walk right up to the sponsors, right up to the drivers, be able to speak with them, engage with them, interact with them, and have an opportunity to not only see your brand expand, but be able to put deals together. And I think that's just a part of what makes NHRA's platform so special. And I think, and I hope that over the next few years, you'll continue to see more corporate partnership come in. And I know that we have some new drivers back returning like Tony Schumacher, and it'll be great for the sport if it continues to head in this right direction.
I agree. Well, and I think there's this momentum that is building within the NHRA, announcements happening. But this one is interesting because I think it's a technology sponsor. What do you say about that? We've been trying to reach into certain areas and fields, and the fact that we're out there accelerating to 330 miles per hour in 1,000 feet in less than 4 seconds, I think it's lost on a lot of people, the technology involved, and everybody's into phone apps and computer programs. And this is a nice little nexus of the two, right? We've got more trailers per square quarter mile than anywhere in the world at any time. And Phillips is using their technology to benefit all of those people with a myriad of products. I think it's a nice deal, and it's great to see a technology-related sponsor on the side of a top field dragster.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, when you look at NHRA as a whole, right, all the trucks and trailers that are out there, like you said, in a relatively small space is pretty amazing. And then just to have the technology behind it, when you look at race cars that are 11,000 plus horsepower, going over 330 miles per hour, talk about advancements in technology. That's what it's all about. It's about innovation and technology that moves you forward. And that's what Phillips Connect is about. And a lot of what they do and a lot of what they focus on is their installers and their ability to be efficient in their installation. And when you look at NHRA and the pit guys that they have and the talent that they have, I always say it, I have the fun job, right? It's so easy for me to get in the car and drive, but what they have to do is a coordinated dance in between rounds to be able to get the car ready to go efficiently and effectively during the right time period. And that's where you can kind of see that technology and that mesh kind of come together between the two worlds.
All right, let's talk about competition in that there was you guys are doing a great job with the news rollout. We saw Tommy D sneaking around as well as he can sneak out there. I believe it was Vegas the first time I saw him, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was actually Thunder Valley, right? And the kind of off schedule Bristol race. But talk about Tommy DeLago. Speaking of milestones, this guy put a funny car in the threes before anybody, world champion. Talk about reaching out and pulling him in. Mike Green, Tommy DeLago. Pretty good little brain trust you got right there, Justin.
It is. It's a great brain trust. We're fortunate to have Tommy DeLago on the team. And, I spoke to him in advance. He has certain obligations to bring beef jerky to you guys.
Yes.
Alan, just so you guys know. But yeah, I mean, it's great. Tommy is a championship winning crew chief for a reason. And, we take a guy like Mike Green, who to me is the best crew chief in the world, partner with Antron Brown and AB Motorsports, and partner him with Brian Karate and Mark Oswald, and then bring in Tommy DeLago into the frame. And you just have a complete championship winning culture. And, that's really what we want for our program. And I love Tommy. He's a professional. He's an excellent crew chief, and him and Mike work really well together. This is who Mike wanted, is his assistant crew chief, and just an A+ individual, an A+ guy, and somebody that I really look forward to getting to know more throughout the course of the season.
And beef jerky.
Well, I'm sorry, Joe. They also have the advantage of they've all worked together before at DSR. So the get acquainted period should take about 8 seconds, right? Tommy walks in and says, good to see you guys again. And everybody's back on. Nobody's going to have to learn anybody. Nobody's going to have to get comfortable with anybody. And I also think from watching over the years, the most successful crew chief tandems are when you have a guy that's maybe a little on the conservative side, likes to take, not the giant steps, and a guy who's a hold my beer and watch this kind of guy. And, that maybe needs to be tugged back a little bit. And those are the tandems that seem to work very well together, going all the way back to Austin Coyle, when he obviously was a brilliant crew chief. He, set John on fire every week, but he was a brilliant crew chief. When he and Bernie got together, and Bernie Federley obviously was more of a, let's slow down a little bit. Let's take a closer look. We don't, and the two of them together were just magic. And when you look at the tandems that have had huge success over the years, that's usually what works out best. One guy that's a little on the conservative side and one guy that's a little on the wild side. And then they find that sweet spot in the middle. And I think you've got a great combination there. And again, the fact that they know each other and they've worked together before. How many times have you seen somebody come in, even when Bernie joined, I just think that's the best example. When Bernie joined John Force, he came in for like a 4-race trial run. Let's just see if we can all get together here. And obviously it worked out. That adjustment period you don't have there, because you've got a bunch of guys that already know each other, that are already comfortable with each other, and that already understand how to communicate, how to get along, how to work with, and what's best going to work for the team. I think you just made literally both teams stronger, yours and Antron's.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. When you talk about guys who want to swing for the fence and say hold my beer, and then guys who are a little more conservative, I agree. When you tend to look at the history of NHRA, whether it was Bernie and Austin or some of these other guys that are out here now, those are the tandems that work the best. You're right. And I think that bringing, Tommy along to help with Mike and obviously work with Brian and Mark, I think we kind of meet that criteria of putting together that kind of tandem. So, all arrows pointed up toward, a successful year.
Super exciting. What is your testing schedule? They just announced the dates for the test down in Reinhart country the week prior to the Lucas Oil Winter Nationals. That's where most everyone is going. Some other testing going on around the country, but will you be hitting that test, the full test? What do you got going? Lay it out for us.
Yeah, we will be. So we will be testing in Phoenix with the other Nitro teams that are out there. I believe it will be February 10th, 11th, and 12th. And, that'll give us a good chance to, get squared away and feel like we're ready to go for the season. We have a brand new car, a new DSR chassis, made a lot of changes, everything from the clutch department to, the chassis itself over the new year. So we're excited to get out there and test that. And then while we're out there, Phillips Connect representatives are going to be out there installing their technology on our truck and trailer too. So that'll be an exciting time, really getting geared up and ready to go for a long year.
The Justin Ashley Pit Light Show that will be happening after qualifying each night. Justin, congratulations. I'm super excited. Hey, let's talk Dustin Davis real quick, though. I think every time I see you, I want to think of him because you and I spoke about it last year. And Alan, I think you and I spoke about, here's an owner that is working on the car, right? Like they're racing at a very high level, who is also kind of incognito, right? And I really want to change that for Dustin this year. Even if he doesn't want it, people need to know who he is, because I think he's a great example to others out there. Like this can be your competition, even as an owner.
Yeah, Dustin is the perfect example of somebody who will work nonstop to meet a goal or objective that they have. This was a dream of his to be an owner of a top fuel car. And, just having the relationship with him that I've had, I learned a lot about him on a professional level and on a personal level. And he is a team owner on a top fuel dragster who also happens to be the clutch guy. If you ever go into our pits, you would never know he is a team owner because he's filled with clutch dust, right, all the time. And, it's just one of those things where he's the perfect leader to lead by example. The guys look up to him. They have a tremendous respect for him, as do I. And, he's the type of guy that, works on his demo business Monday through Sunday, and somehow still at the racetrack gets his work done Friday through Sunday, all at the same time. So it's definitely great to be able to shed a little bit of spotlight on him, because he definitely deserves it.
Demo, like demolition?
Demolition, yes. Yep.
So during the week, he's destroying stuff, and on the weekend, he definitely doesn't want to destroy stuff.
That's exactly right. He's trying not to destroy stuff on the weekend. Trying to do the exact opposite of what he does during the week. So we hope he just gets it all out of his system during the week. So on the weekend, we'll have fun, right?
Well, there's a connection to that, right? A lot of people do on the weekends the opposite of what they do during the week. And
Right.
I think that is true with Dustin Davis. Justin, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Alan, any final questions for Justin before we let him go?
Yeah, just one. For all of the years I've been out here, one thing has been constant, and that is when a car comes back from the end of the run and the clutch guy is whining about the engine guys having oil all over his clutch. Now, I'm thinking in your camp, he swings a little bit bigger stick than most of the clutch guys whining about that, right? When he comes back and goes, hey, you darn engine guys need to keep your damn oil off my clutch, you better listen.
Right. You think he'd have a little bit more say and a little bit more pull. It's like when Mike, when we first started working with Mike Green, it's like you need to sit down and have the conversation. Like, I'm the team owner, but like, Mike, I'm the clutch guy. So tell me what I need to do on the clutch. Don't hold back. Let me know the truth. Right. So I think that's the cool part, though, is, like naturally you swing a little bit of a bigger stick. Right. What you say is a little bit more meaningful, but at the same time, he's one of the guys, which I think is cool, which is why people don't know that he's a co-owner, because he's one of the guys. So, just adds to kind of the interesting appeal of our team.
Yes.
Now, Tony Stewart, I'm sorry, Joe. Tony Stewart had Greg Zippadelli for a crew chief for a number of years, even when he was the team owner or one of the team owners over at Stewart Haas. And they had a really simple relationship. Tony would tell Greg, you work for me Monday through Friday, and I work for you Saturday and Sunday. And that's the mentality you need to have. When we get to the racetrack, you treat me like a driver. Now, Tuesday when we're in the office, I'm going to treat you like I'm the owner, but that's the way you got to make it work, is like everybody just know your role. But now, Dustin, I mean, really good guy. And Joe, as you said, really low key. Some people out there want to have their name be the biggest on the car, and that's, God bless them if that's the way they want. And some people just want to be out there doing their job. And I think Dustin is one of those lower key. He wants the car to speak for himself, and he'd like to stand in the winner's circle and be the dirtiest guy in the winner's circle picture. That's what clutch guys always are.
That's exactly right. Hit it on the head.
Awesome. Justin, good luck this year. Congratulations on putting together yet another fantastic deal within the NHRA. And in my opinion, showing the way, forging blazing a trail for many young racers to follow. He can do that. He can get those guys. He can bring on a sponsor like Phillips. We can too. And that will be great for the sport. So good luck. We'll hopefully see you out at the test. If not, then the Lucas Oil Winter Nationals. Congratulations on this. And I'm very excited to see your performance here at the start of the year with Phillips. Good luck getting a win.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate you having me on. Alan, always good to see you. I'll see you soon.
See you in Phoenix.
There he goes. Later, there goes Justin Ashley with us here on WFO Radio. Little breaking news to start the week, Alan, to placate the angry WFO audience, who apparently didn't love the fact that we were not live last week. But I want to thank you for jumping on Monday and doing, we got a show in. I couldn't tell you for the life of me what we talked about, but a show aired on Tuesday while I was at the Engine Performance Expo. And we kept them hot. But now we got the big test. We got Tony Stewart, his Dodge, officially, things that people knew. But now we watched the announcement flow after the turn of the year. The cars, we've seen them. They look awesome. That thing is taking shape, becoming real. All kinds of stuff going on in the world of drag racing, including the first major event of Nitro racing to our friends in Sydney. Drag Racing Australia gets going this weekend, and Larry Dixon is going to be part of the event. All kinds of good stuff going on. What's sticking out in your mind?
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw the news, I think, just like everybody else did when it hit social media, and I immediately reached out to Larry and said, hey, congrats and best of luck down there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the results come out of there. As you mentioned, the Tony Stewart Racing Dodge thing was pretty known. It was an interesting splash they made, though, because I really like the looks on the cars. Something that really will jump out, something that the fans are going to be able to see from the stands, even when it's going 300 miles an hour. Those things are both very sharp. So I think that's certainly good news. There's going to be some more coming down the pipe. We've seen, some of the new looks of the DHL cars and some of the other things have been kind of leaking out a little bit. So I'm looking forward to getting to testing. I enjoyed spending last week and the weekend following along, mostly online, but following along and trying to keep up with what was going on out in Tulsa. As I posted on social media, the worst decision I've made so far this year, and believe me, many more to come, was the Division 6 banquet that I was going to host got postponed, and that left me an opening to go to the Chili Bowl, and I went, nah. And then sat and watched, all the stuff that was going out there. Kaylee Bryson making a little history and the other stuff. And, meanwhile, of course, now I'm getting beat up by my friends that are at the Chili Bowl going, loser, you should be here. So next year I'll have to plan a little better.
Tanner Thorson, since we're talking Chili Bowl, years ago, like 5-6 years ago, one of our great listeners, Craig Thorson, put us on to Tanner Thorson, who was part of the Toyota Racing development team, Keith Coons and those guys. And we had him on the show several times, and great kid, got involved in an accident, like a highway crash, towing to or from a race, was severely injured, in the hospital for a while. Like, to see that young kid, because he was on, was he on the fast track to asphalt? I don't know, but he had a lot of talent and didn't get to show it. And now everybody is going to know his name forever. And I just think it's great. I was seeing the coverage on NASCAR.com. They're like, Christopher Bell didn't win, headline story, right? But I think it's great for Tanner Thorson, and hopefully he can come back. And I didn't get to watch. I was traveling back and frankly wiped from the Engine Performance Expo. But the Chili Bowl has happened, which means the racing season has started.
Yeah, and I don't know Tanner at all. I've never met him. I couldn't have picked him out of a lineup until I saw some of the pictures of, this past weekend. But went back and read the story, and Mike Joy had a link to a story. He put it up on his social media, and I don't believe it was Mike's story, but I think he linked to it. And very interesting. I mean, Tanner, you said fast track. Actually, I think made a couple of starts in the truck series, and then didn't quite work out and was kind of going back to his roots a little bit after the accident. But that's a guy that's got a lot of talent. And with a couple of years under his belt now, I think maybe has gained some more maturity. And everything I've seen about him recently, the NASCAR world may have been surprised that Tanner Thorson won the Chili Bowl. Kyle Larson wasn't surprised. Nope. Christopher Bell wasn't surprised. Those guys all know exactly who that guy is. They know how good he is. They know his ability and talent, and he's got great equipment. And so, he was one of the names going in. If you are in the sprint and dirt or sprint and midget arena, he's one of the names going in that you had penciled in to keep an eye on this guy all week long. It certainly wasn't like, wow, somebody we never heard of won the race. Not if you race in that venue at all.
Exactly. And congratulations to Tanner. I think it is great news. We got people out there in the comments section. Cruz Pedregon also got to race. Yeah. Kind of a bummer, though. I mean, it's great that he got to race, but he had to have his equipment shipped express overnight. And that's, he got to make some laps in the car and everything, but I just don't think he really got the opportunity to put his best foot forward, because we know Cruz can do that, but to be shaking off rust at the Chili Bowl, you got thrown into a car, and Landon Simon, right, is a crew chief, and they had an extra car, and he's related to the drag racing world through people we know, Sarah. Great for Cruz, but man, I'd like to see him gotten a couple test laps or something.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Being at the Chili Bowl with, what was the official count, 370 some cars, there's not like a lot of practice, a lot of hot laps, a lot of, everybody gets a couple of them, and then, okay, time to qualify, time to heat race, and there just isn't time to find a comfort zone if you're not already there. If you're driving a car you're used to, if you're driving something you got 100 laps on, that's one thing, but to just come in there and jump into that shark tank with different equipment and without practice, don't misunderstand. If somebody gave me the opportunity and I'd fit in a midget, I'd love to do it, just to say, hey, look at me, I drove at the Chili Bowl. But it's going to be really tough to be competitive. And as you said, Cruz has done this form of racing before. He certainly has the ability to do it. But when you get thrown in there without any practice or any, that's pretty difficult.
McNeil Freeman out there. Happy New Year. What's up, McNeil? Appreciate it. Everybody out there. Chris out there saying what's up. Yeah, well, when Tony invites Team NHRA into SRX, I think Team NHRA is pretty clear. Doug Coletta, team leader, Ron Capps, and Cruz Pedregon, right? Like, these are all guys. Cruz and Capps raced in the Prelude to the Dream, and Doug has won a championship. Not too bad. It's just about seat time for those guys. Can they get enough? And right now, I think they're focused on NHRA 2022. We'll see how that all goes. But the cross talent of the NHRA racer, they can do other stuff. They choose to focus on what they do.
One of the things, though, with the SRX series that makes it unique is nobody's familiar with that car. Certainly, somebody that circle track races is going to be closer to familiar, but nobody gets to bring their equipment. Nobody gets to bring their crew chief. Nobody gets to bring their setup in. So it's a little bit more of a level playing field for a guy coming in that doesn't drive in circles all week, as opposed to at the Chili Bowl, when if there's 375 cars there, 365 guys are driving the same car that they drive every Friday, Saturday, Wednesday night at racetracks all over the country. So they're comfortable with what they're doing. They're comfortable with their equipment, and they've got their crew chief. They've got their people. If they go, hey, this is what the car needs, this is what the car is going to get, and it's just difficult to go in there cold.
Excellent, excellent. I was talking about Sydney and drag racing starting off down there for Drag Racing Australia. I actually got a package today from one of our Patreon supporters, sponsors from Torque Calibration Services of Australia out there, and I got a shirt, and I was super excited, and I was reading the letter. Here's a shirt for you. And there's one for Alan Reinhart too. And I was like, what? Alan's getting shirts now too through WFO Radio. And the answer is yes, you are. It's very interesting. Like Australian shirt, Australian everything. It's not upside down or anything, but I will deliver that to you the first time I see you. But I'm excited for our fans down under. I'm excited for everybody. Like, here we go. Things are getting real. Let's talk a little bit about, the announcements and then the test. This is a very important test because they zip straight over to Pomona and it's go time.
Yeah. And, the fact that we're going to Phoenix is a really good sign. The last couple of years, we haven't been able to go to Phoenix. And so the fact that we're going to Phoenix to test is a really good sign that we are going to actually get to go there and race. And, everything's still up in the air, right? Anything could blow up overnight and something go wrong. But I think that that's a real good step in the right direction. The teams like coming to Phoenix to test for one basic reason above all others. We race in Phoenix.
Yep.
If you go to West Palm, can you learn stuff? Absolutely. Are you going to learn stuff that's going to help you in West Palm next month?
No.
Nope. Are you going to learn stuff that transfers directly to Gainesville next month?
No.
Nope. But you're going to go to Phoenix, you're going to go to Pomona, and you're going to come right back to Phoenix. So the things that you learn in Phoenix should make you better for the second race of the season. Sure, you want to shake down your new cars. Sure, you want to get your guys all back in a groove, right? You can do pit practice at the shop until the end of time. It ain't the same as when you drag one of those things back and the clutch is 900 degrees and now you got to get this thing turned around in an hour. That stuff you can only do at the racetrack. And so all of the guys are going to be going through those motions, and we've seen it so many times. Guys got a brand new backup car. All right, well, let's drag it out. Let's put it together. Let's make 2 laps just to make sure everything's fine with that. And then we'll put it back in the trailer. Then we'll get our race car out. Then we'll do this. And so it's, usually kind of a busy time. There's not, as a rule, 325 mile an hour runs, because a lot of times in testing, you're going 600 feet to teach you all you need to know. Sometimes 200 feet is teaching you all you need to know. So I always kind of look at testing with a little bit of a skewed eye, because if you read the results, right, you go, hey, okay, they went testing. Joe and Alan had low ET of testing.
Yep.
So what? Was Justin Ashley trying to set low ET of testing, or was Justin Ashley working through his new clutch program and trying to make the car go 200 feet? Because if that's all he was concerned with, then he don't give a lick about who's got low ET of testing. He just wants to make sure that they got their stuff worked out. And from an expense standpoint, I don't care how big your budget is, if all you're trying to do is get, the initial 200 feet, there's no reason to run it to the finish line. There's no reason to put the wear and tear on the crankshaft or the block or the chassis or anything else. Run it 200 feet and shut it off. So that's why we see so many of those runs. Is it important? Absolutely. Is it going to tell everybody, okay, well, here's going to be what's going to happen all season long? Absolutely not. And I believe, Joe, I assume you got the note, came out yesterday, that fans are going to be allowed to come to the testing on Saturday.
Yes.
And only if you have a ticket to the Arizona Nationals. And the reason they do that is quite simple, because if your only goal is you want to come out and you want to get John Force's autograph or Antron's autograph, then, you could come out, do that, take your pictures, and not come to the Nationals. So what they're doing is not penalizing those who aren't planning on coming to the Nationals. It's a bonus for those who already have their ticket. If you're already committed and you bought tickets to come to the Arizona Nationals and you want to come to the bonus of the test session, you're allowed to do that.
And I think rightfully so. The opposite of Palm Beach, right, where we don't have any kind of NHRA national event. And as much as they're both in Florida, being 4 hours north makes it very challenging. If you live in Miami You might go to Palm Beach to get a taste of Nitro cars to see what they're like for the first time, and then love them so much you might go to Gainesville. A lot of people in Arizona would just go check out the tests, sniff some Nitro, watch on TV. We gotta have them go to both. And I love that idea. I think it is great, and they've got a nice little start to the season. I hope that can become a long-term investment. Just like, you know what, Alan? They're all ruining my thing. PRI, Orlando, Simple Drive, go to the parks. No, Castello, we're moving it to Indy. All right, that's fine. We got this great Nitro test at Palm Beach. You get to see everybody. You drive an hour. It's your home track, Castello. Yeah, right. We're pulling it away. We're sending it to Arizona. But in each example, I know why.
Well, the Phoenix test was a staple for years. You know, there was a number of years where they would come to Tucson and test. They would go to Phoenix to test. There were a few years where they would go to Phoenix and then they would go to Vegas, or the other way around. And then, you know, West Palm kind of jumped into the middle of all of that. And, you know, if it's an easier drive for the guys to Indy and they just want to go down and test something for a couple of 3 days, okay, I completely understand. You know, the weather's obviously good. The track is obviously capable of taking whatever you want to throw at it. But in a situation like this, especially when everybody's got finances on the mind, no matter how big your sponsorship is, everybody's got finances on the mind. That's the reason the Phoenix test is back-to-back with Pomona. So you don't have to drive out here and then fly everybody home, fly everybody back. You drive out here, you get all your stuff squared away, you go straight to Pomona, you leave Pomona, you come straight back to Phoenix. So for the road guys, this is one road trip to come out, do the test, do Pomona, do Phoenix before you go home. Whereas again, in years past, you know, you might have come to Phoenix and then had a week off, or then gone to Vegas, or gone, and, you know, you've got all this extra travel and all this extra expense, and everybody's just trying to, like, you know, compress as much as possible. And so that's why it makes sense to do it this way. I hope we have good weather for the entire time, because I'd really like to see everybody get in their full 3 days of testing, get everything done they need to do. And I really would like to see our season get off to a good running start. As I've said, from the first day we did this show on Sirius XM 1,006 years ago, give us good weather. We'll take it from there.
Absolutely. Caleb Cox says, we see where I'm adding some snark to that. We see where Alan's tool loyalty is.
Well, Justin was going to be on the show. I thought, you know, he might sneak Antron in there or something. And I don't have a Snap-on shirt. I'm sorry, but I don't.
Oh, there you go. There it is. Neither do I. Happy birthday, Caleb. Wasn't it just a couple of days ago? I think it was.
Oh, yeah, we missed that, didn't we? So happy birthday, Caleb.
Happy birthday, Caleb. Listen, there's all kinds of rotating shirts. There are ways to ensure the shirts that we are wearing, but that's going through another thing. All right, Alan, let's spend a couple of minutes talking about, you know, supply chain is something that is now common speak for every person. Everybody understands this. But how is 2022 going to be different for our racers navigating the supply chain issues? Like, we all know why, and we all know that it's a worldwide thing, and that it's post-pandemic in many ways unavoidable. But like clutch discs, I hear a lot of people talking about that's going to be different this year. Navigating that, managing that. Like, we got discs now, maybe that we know how to use them. Maybe we should put them to the end of the year. Like, what do you think is happening in the planning phase of 2022, obviously for Nitro teams, but across the gamut of Camping World Series, to manage? Maybe we won't have some things available as much as we did in the past.
Well, I think that the biggest thing that teams are doing is they're just planning a little further down the road. You know, if you know from years past that you could order connecting rods and have them in 3 weeks, then, you know, you'd always have a 5 or 6 week supply, and okay, you just kind of keep rolling and keep rolling and keep rolling. Now, if connecting rods, just, you know, pick a number out of the sky, are taking 4 months, you need to plan a little bit further ahead. And the people that make all of these parts understand how many are needed for the season, how many teams are going to need, how much things are going to, what, and believe me, they're pumping them out as quickly as they can. So what I think you're going to see is something that we've seen in NHRA since the beginning of time, and that is camaraderie between the teams. If Joe and Alan Racing run out of connecting rods and John Force Racing has still got 25 sets, I think that they're going to let us use a couple of sets, understanding that when ours come in 3 weeks from now, that we're going to kind of pay it back the other way. And I think you're going to see some more of that between the big teams and the small teams. I think that there's going to be, some phone calls going on in the background going, hey, look, I'm waiting on cylinder heads. They're telling me it's going to be 3 more weeks. I'm not sure I got enough to get through Topeka. And somebody's going to say, you know what, come over. I got a couple extra set of cylinder heads. Take these things and we'll square up down the road. But it's always been in the NHRA DNA for the teams to help the other teams stay out there, stay in competition, stay on the road. I think that teams are going to be planning further ahead. I think that more teams are looking at maybe being more self-sufficient. Coletta Motorsports a couple of years ago started making cylinder heads, and I'm not sure if they're making blocks yet, but I know that was something that was on their radar moving forward. And maybe some of the other teams will look at, is there another source that we can go to just to kind of shore up the supply for everybody? And, we're going to see. Don Schumacher's manufacturing facility certainly hasn't slowed down, and he is still supplying for the teams, even though they're not technically under the DSR umbrella anymore, but he's still supplying that and supplying to a lot of other teams as well. But I think if you see a shortage or something coming, that it's going to be a matter of, okay, who's got a surplus of this, and will they help us get through this gap? And then, we'll square up at the end of the season or somewhere down the road. But I think that's what you're going to see, like you've seen in NHRA Championship drag racing since day one.
Paul Dagrapon out there says that he ordered rods in December, was told May. Going Bracket Racing wonders, should the NHRA help out with that situation by some sort of limiting rule, 2 engines per weekend? That's something I've been thinking about. Maybe not 2, but a hard cap, right? Like maybe it's 4 or something, just to like put a ceiling on something, the amount of parts pieces that you're allowed. But I don't know if that helps in this moment, right? It keeps more parts on the shelf at the manufacturer. I don't think they're going to want to make parts if they're on the shelf.
Well, you end up with the classic unintended consequences. All right. Now, Joe and Alan Racing, we're running a Nitro car. You want to run a top fuel car or a funny car, Joe? You're driving.
Funny car, man. Funny car.
Okay, Joe and I are running a funny car.
Right? I think that's
engines.
Yeah.
What?
I feel tougher if I'm in a funny car. Sorry, Top Fuel guys. It just feels a little more.
That's fine. Just remember, I'm tuning it. You want the engine in your lap? No problem. So, still want to drive a funny car?
I'll think about it.
Okay. So NHRA puts a cap on, says 3 engines per weekend. Okay. We go out Q1 and the thing blows the rods out of it. Saws the block in half. We've wasted a motor.
Right. Leveled it.
Do we run on Saturday?
Right. Maybe not.
We now have 2 engines to get us through Sunday.
Yeah, probably not. No, the smart move is to not run on Saturday. If we got qualified on that run, definitely not.
So now what do you tell the fans who bought a Saturday ticket because they want to come out and see qualifying when there's 6 cars that don't go down the racetrack because they can't afford to take a chance of breaking an engine? What do you tell them?
Tough luck.
And, and again, there's always kind of a law of unintended consequences. And I think that's one of the things one of the other things that's happened when this has been talked about before, and you look at the teams that have a budget, okay? You look at Coletta, you look at Force, you look at, Schumacher still got a big presence out there, but you look at the teams that got a budget. What's John Force Racing going to do when you tell them you're only allowed 3 engines for the weekend? They are going to put a complete welding and machine shop in a trailer, even more so than they have now. Because when they go out and blow the rods out of that motor on Friday night, they're going to weld the block all back together. They're going to remachine the thing. They're going to do whatever they have to do to Band-Aid this thing together in case they need it. Now, they wouldn't run it until last resort, I would guess, but they're going to have the expense of having that trailer, those guys, that equipment, that stuff there, just in case. Because if you are one of those teams and you go out there and you kill your last engine in the semifinals, are you not going to run the final?
No,
and then you end up with, okay, now what do you do? For the fans, okay, Joe and Alan just blew up their last engine. They can't run the final. So do you put Robert Height back in because we just beat him in the semis? Sorry, Robert, you smoked the tires. It wasn't our fault.
Right.
But do you put him back in now so the fans have a final round? Or does the car in the final round idle down the racetrack, which is exactly what they're going to do because they're going to need that engine next week. And so then you've hurt the show for the fans. Or do Joe and Alan do whatever they can do to weld and Band-Aid and patch this Frankenstein thing back together just so it'll start, and go up there and potentially blow it up again, potentially oil down the racetrack, potentially send the body off, potentially whatever, all because they're not allowed to just throw a new engine in the car. And if this one's fixable, fine. It needs to go back to the shop. It needs to go through the process. It needs to be fixed properly, not hodgepodge back together at the racetrack. And so what do you do?
Yeah. And he comes back with, but maybe we could have more participation, but I have never seen that. Like, I agree with the sentiment. It would be nice to try to make the ocean not quite as deep for the smaller teams, but I've never seen it work. And coming off this Engine Performance Expo, Alan, I was out there, and Mark Cronquist from Joe Gibbs Racing is out there, and Keith Dorton, who was big in the 80s. And one thing that all of these engine guys who have had to deal with rules that the concept is that they never work, right? They cause the spending. If we've got the money, we're going to spend the money. If we want Joe and Alan Racing, what he did not tell you is that prior to forming this, we just won the Powerball. It was a big one, guys. It was like $500 million. And since Alan and I really love drag racing, we're going after the Torrances, and we're going to go crazy with it.
No, we're not. We're going funny car racing. We're staying the hell away from the Torrances.
That's right. Well, listen, if we
I
win
want no part of the Torrances.
No, if we win the Powerball, Alan, we're going after the Torrances. I think we got something for them. But we're going to spend our money. We're going to figure out, and you put a rule or a bar or a thing or a restriction, like, okay, you can't use that. Well, we're going to go figure out some NASA space coding that's going to make our 3 engines last longer, and it tripled the price of them. We're going to spend what we want to spend to win, because that's what they always do. And there just isn't a lot of, I used to think like that. The evidence that has been presented over the last 30 years of trying, even these small series, we hear about it on Hidden Horsepower all the time. These engine builders, they're annoyed because the local series, whether it be round track, dirt track, or otherwise, will put a series of restrictions in to try to contain costs. And it doesn't contain the costs. Nope. They spend a whole bunch of time trying to circumvent the rules, and it ends up costing more money than it did previously, and it restricts. And it's just one of those things that it seems to be a good concept in theory, but in actuality, they're going to find a way over the hurdle or around or through or under. They'll build a giant contraption to get over the wall if you put a wall in front of them. It just doesn't seem to have worked.
Well, you also end up, and in drag racing in particular, and yeah, what you said about circle track racing is 100% true. And I've spent some time living in that world as well. But in drag racing, what you look at is, okay, we just made the run. We came back. The crankshaft's black on 2 journals, and we got a lifter that's kind of stuck. What do? Change the engine.
Yeah. I was going to say send it.
You
change the engine. You change the engine. Well, because it could cost you $40,000. You can't just.
Maybe we'll polish that crank and it'll be fine, and we'll use it again next week. Maybe we'll remachine that lifter bore. We'll clean it up, and it'll be fine next week. But right now, just swap the engine out. Right. Get it out of here. Get the new one in. Let's go run. We'll worry about that later. Versus, okay, well, somebody get under there with some emery cloth and see if you can get the blackness off that crank, or at least get it as close as you can. Somebody run a little hone down that thing and see if the lifter's okay. It's not sticking too bad. Put it back together. We got to go because this is the only engine we got left. Now what happens? Now the engine blows up.
Right.
Now, not only have we oiled the racetrack, have we been fined and penalized and made the fans sit through a cleanup because freaking Joe wouldn't pull over the wall after the thing blew up. I mean, come on, man. You didn't feel it? But now,
I just kept my foot in.
Instead of having a crank that needs to be polished or maybe replaced, and having a lifter bore that certainly could be remachined and cleaned up back at the shop and be fixed, we have just junked an engine because we weren't allowed to swap it out. And you end up with kind of a, where do you draw the line? And so I think in concept that really sounds great, but in reality, you've got so many unintended consequences that come with that, and you've got to think like a racer thinks. I still think Lee Beard one time when they were talking about, what's going to be the best way to slow the cars down, and they asked Lee Beard, what do you think? And he said, I have no idea. In the 30 years I've spent out here winning races, winning championships, not once have I ever thought, how can I slow the car down? And I don't care what rule you come up with.
Right.
My first thing is, how do I get around that? He said, if you told us we can't have any more oil downs, you got to run these things with no oil in them. Okay. And I'm going to start thinking about, how do I do that now? But he said, not once have I ever thought, how can I slow the car down? My job has always been to get around whatever rules or roadblocks are put in front of me and make the car faster. And so you've really got to think like a racer. I love the fact that, and when I tell people this, their eyes always go up, right? When NHRA's rev limit came in on the Pro Stock cars, right? Some of the cars were running pretty damn close to 12,000 RPMs. And they're killing valve springs, and everybody's having a problem with it. So NHRA went, okay, 10,500, done deal. That's what you got to do, 10,500. So what do you do as a racer?
Well, you're figuring out how to make power at 10,500. You got to redesign everything else.
Okay, but from a valve train standpoint, what do? You open the valve farther. If you're opening the valve, pick a number. If you're opening the valve this much and the springs are dying at 10,500 RPM, and they go, okay, or they're dying at 12,000, and they go, you can only run 10.5. You go, okay, now the springs are living. What if we open the valve this much? What if we open the valve this much? And you keep going until the springs are dead. And then you go, okay, that's as far as we can go with that. Now let's go someplace else. But that's just the mentality of drag racers in particular. It's only got to run 6 or 7 seconds.
Yeah.
What can we do to make that happen? And whatever you do to try to restrict something is going to have unintended consequences somewhere else.
Well, always. And Jason Lyon has been a big proponent of not doing anything, right? But at the same time, it is hard to argue with the success of Pro Stock over the past couple of years since that rule came in. And Hartford has said it has saved money to not have and work. Honestly, to not have to change the valve springs nearly as often. But then again, there's always an arc, right? Like people take time to figure out those things that you just said. And once they realize like, oh, that's really working and we have found a performance advantage, then you have to do it. And so it always takes time. Let me ask you this before we let you go. When the super teams came around, like Don Schumacher Racing and Force, and there was, 4 and 7, and people got very angry early on with the super teams, and then we kind of got used to it. But now that there is no super team, right? Like, would now be a good time for the NHRA to say something like, hey, 2 top fuel dragsters, 2 nitro funny cars max for any one team, and that could encourage more individual owners, even if it was that, quasi shell game where you're listed as an owner, but you're running out of this shop, et cetera, and so on, as opposed to the 8-car super teams that, people claimed they hated.
I don't think so. And I think, I honestly believe if you had said during that time period, 4 teams, only one owner can only have 4 teams, that it would have been about 10 minutes before there was DSR, Don Schumacher Racing, and MSR, Megan Schumacher Racing. What have you fixed? What have you solved? If it comes down to, hey, you can only have 4 cars, period, then how long do you think it is before there's John Force Racing and Brittany Force Racing?
Right.
Or John Force Racing and Robert Height Racing? Even the NASCAR guys are doing it now. Yes, there are only 4 cars that come out of the Joe Gibbs umbrella. How many are out of the Joe Gibbs Racing stable? How many umbrella teams are out there? How many? Ryan Preece is going to be driving a car for Rick Ware Racing, having just signed a contract with Stuart Haas, because Stuart Haas can't run 5 cars.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. You really solved that problem.
The same principle, basically. It's like you will create a rule and we will circumvent your rule. Whatever your rule is, we're going to circumvent the rule however we can. And then you'll be forced to make another rule. And then we'll circumvent that one until, you either become extremely restrictive that nobody wants to do this anymore, or we will have conquered you. Like that's what happens to the games between the rules and the players.
Yeah, I think there are certain things that, obviously you need to have rules in place for safety. You need to, there needs to be some limit. And that's why Pro Stock thrived for so many years when they said, okay, guys, 500 cubic inches, 2,350 pounds. That lasted over 30 years. And then, okay, it got to the point where we've got to do something else. Well, technology marches on and everything marches on and everything has changed. There's not a business on the planet that runs the same today that it did 30 years ago. And, and it's a online discussion I've had with a couple of guys, and I understand, right? It's like, oh, I remember back at this, and, we used to go and it was so much better. Really? A guy the other day was talking about, the show at Lions Drag Strip. Boy, if I could just go back to Lions Drag Strip.
Yeah.
Lions Drag Strip closed in 1972.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe, now here's the deal. You ready?
Yeah.
You have an opportunity to go back to 1970.
Yeah.
To see one of these top fuel shows where they've got 50 cars that are all there. Oh, by the way, low ET is going to be 720.
Yeah.
Somebody will probably run 200 miles an hour. I'm sorry, 620. Somebody will probably run 200 miles an hour, 210 miles an hour. If one blows up, it's going to be a one-lane racetrack for an hour because that's the way it was. But everybody that remembers back then remembers the good stuff. And, Lions Drag Strip closed in 1972. There is not a business out there that runs the same now as they did 50 years ago. Not one. You've got to adapt. You've got to change. You've got to grow. You've got to hopefully anticipate so that you don't get left behind. But you look at how many sanctioning bodies there used to be and who's still standing. And it's not because they're the big gorilla, they're the big bully. It's because they were smart enough to understand we've got to adapt. We've got to change. Were some mistakes made along the way? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was the Nitro ban a good idea? Probably not. Maybe at the time. And at the time, the racers really wanted it. But you realize, okay, look, we need to back that up a little bit. And we need to go back here. But when you set just a general parameter, 500 cubic inches, minimum weight, go. And then you let them go. And it worked for a long time. And then there comes a time when you have to change those parameters a little bit. But when you get into the micromanage stuff is when you start getting in trouble. And that's, strictly my opinion. I think you need to just make parameters and then leave everybody alone. But you're never going to stop somebody from spending money. The NASCAR guys, when NASCAR said, okay, testing, right? The guys that can afford it are spending a fortune testing. So here's what we're going to do. You can't have tires. You can test all you want, but you can't have tires.
Right.
What are you going to learn without tires? So what's everybody do? They buy these big 7-post shakers. And then they start doing this. And then it's like, okay, well, then the next thing, and then the next thing. And then now the simulations have gotten to the point where if you have a 7-post shaker, you might as well put that thing on Craigslist and see if somebody wants it for their museum.
It's garbage.
Because, there's nothing to do with it anymore. And yet there's a lot of them that are sitting out there and technology marches on. If you didn't have the money to buy one of those things, okay, you didn't have the money to buy it. But if you had, you go back, and again, this goes back to the 80s, right? If you had the money to go to the wind tunnel, you went to the wind tunnel. And guess what? You were faster than everybody else. And then at some point, okay, time out. Here's what we're going to do now. And it just keeps going and going. But people that have the money to spend are always going to spend the money.
They are, but sometimes they're not all bad because bringing simulations in-house and we have teams running around, testing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 3 different tracks, and every crew member is divorced 3 times and it's got kids all over the place. Like there are rules that do eventually get us to a better place, but because they, like, for instance, Billy Godbold from Comp Cams had credited, I asked him, like, hey, Billy, like, why all this efficiency in these race engines? Where did it come from? And he said it came from government standards for miles per gallon, because they forced us into thinking in a new direction. And so we did. And look at it's benefiting racing. At the time, it wasn't a good thing, but it led to something good. I'm not against that. But I got to say, Alan, is drag racing expensive or is drag racing cheap compared to NASCAR Cup racing, Formula One, IndyCar, and sports cars, right? Like, I don't know, man. I think our sport is still a great value. Yes, you have to be pretty successful in either finding sponsorship and relating to sponsors or in business like Billy Torrance and Capco. But on the scale of professional motorsports, it is not one of the most expensive motorsports.
No, you can certainly run top fuel cheaper than you can run NASCAR at the Cup Series level. And you could certainly run NASCAR at the Cup Series level cheaper than you can run Formula One, I promise you, even if you want to run 30th every week. but everything's a sliding scale. Jim Dunn said probably in the 1960s, he said drag racing costs exactly what it's always cost. Everything you got.
Everything you want, you're willing to devote to it.
The price hasn't changed. It costs everything you got. And, there's people that do it like that. And so you just, but there's also a lot of people that run within their budget. I think, you look at Clay Milliken, you look at Doug Stringer's team, they run very well, but they certainly couldn't afford to go out there and blow up 6 engines every weekend. They put themselves out of business because they understand this is the budget we've got. And I think Mike Clover's done an incredible job with that team. David Grubnick, when he was there also, and making the car run as well as it runs without carnage. And most of that mentality has changed, certainly in the last 10 years, and not, even more so in the last 4 or 5. But as well as I do, there were guys out there that blew up. Okay, put another engine in. Blew up. Did we win? Yeah, put another engine in. And never seemed to bother. And everybody now is kind of leaning the other way. Do we still have some catastrophic failures? Sure. But the parts are getting better. The technology is getting better. And so all of that helps. But if you just got to run within your budget, you look at a guy like Tim Wilkerson. I love Tim Wilkerson. Love him to death. Love the way he does his program, everything about it. He does not run his car anything like John Force and Robert Height run theirs. He simply doesn't have the budget. And I'm not talking about blowing up. I'm talking about cycling out crankshafts at a short term and cycling out everything at a short term. He's got to make his stuff live. And so he runs the car a little bit more conservatively. Can you win races like that? You mean like the U.S. Nationals? Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
And, championships may be a little bit tougher. But everybody out there is running what their budget will allow. You look at a guy like Jeff Deal, and same thing. Love Jeff Deal. Jeff Deal comes out and he understands if I blow up a couple of motors, I'm probably done for 6 months. So he doesn't go out there and try to run low ET. He doesn't go out there and try to run 325 miles an hour. He tries to go out there and make a good run, as solid as he can with the parts that he's got, and try to get in the show, try to give his opponent a good run, try to put on a show for the fans, and try to not put himself out of business. And, you just have to understand wherever your line is and don't cross it.
Don't cross the line. No, I like it. My point is that I think we're in a good spot right now with NHRA Drag Racing and the cost. Of course, this conversation got started by like the test and then Pomona and then back to Arizona, one trip. Like thinking about cost is a good thing. Creating arbitrary rules that will cause 10 different unintended circumstances is maybe not a good thing, as indicated by all the other times it has happened. Alan, anything else on your mind before we part ways today? We had the big Justin Ashley breaking news at the start of this deal. Super exciting. Anything else that we didn't get to as we start ramping up? We didn't really talk a lot of pro stock today, but we will as we get closer. Anything else that you want to throw out there to the WFO universe?
No, I think I'm good. I really wanted to hear a little bit more about the Engine Expo, but maybe we'll have an opportunity to talk about that somewhere in the future. And I might, not 100% sure yet, but I might next week be coming to you from a different location.
A different location, a well-executed tease by Alan Reinhart. That is why he is a pro. Might, maybe, different location. I like it, Alan. Great job. Yeah, we'll talk engine. Listen, shorthand. Engine Performance Expo. It was part 2 of one that was in October, and this one we had been working on an LS engine that the whole thing was to take off-the-shelf parts and try to make 1,000 horsepower. They did. Off-the-shelf parts made 1,000 horsepower. Supply chain kind of pushed it back to January, but they did, and they still have plenty of room to go. Ben Strader from EFI University tuned it up. We got to do some really cool interviews with engine builders talking about their like hidden horsepower lives. But really, the best part for me was hanging out with these extremely smart men who are in the engine game and trying to figure out which epic NASCAR fan moments they were connected to behind the scenes, right? Like every championship, every race win is connected back to a moment happening in an engine room or a dyno room or a part that they couldn't get or a part that they modified or something like Mark Cronquist from Joe Gibbs Racing was, he had a bunch of them, right? Oh yeah. This race, that race, biggest failure. Don't really remember the successes as much as I remember the failures. Oh, really?
That's an engine guy.
That's an engine guy. Which failure, Rags? Well, we lost both engines at Pocono. and with less than 20 laps to go. And it was devastating. It still hurts my soul right now. And he remembered like what happened and the tearing it apart. And it was really cool. And the engine guys in the world out there, such a big part of this, and kind of unsung heroes because they are burning the midnight oil every night.
I had the good fortune of doing a one-on-one with Keith Thornton, an engine building expo at the PRI show a few years ago, where I was basically the asker and he was the answerer.
Yes.
And having a chance to chit-chat with him a little bit beforehand, just, some of his backgrounds, because I certainly know his name, but I didn't realize that he made his name doing Ford FE stuff. That's how long he's been around.
Yes.
And, years he worked with Dale Earnhardt before Earnhardt was part of Richard Childress and the other stuff.
And
but
Ralph.
The one thing that you'll find out with engine builders is, how many championships have you won? He'll go, there was the one in 1987 where we blew up with 2 laps to go. And that's the one they remember, the one that got away. And so it, but yeah, that's always going to be the thing about, I remember the race we were leading when my engine broke. Not the championship, not the track record. I remember the race we were leading when my engine broke is something that those guys are always going to remember.
And they don't break nearly as much as they used to back in the day. And thank goodness for that. Alan, great job as usual.
Thanks, Joe. Always a pleasure. And best of luck to your Florida football teams. My Arizona football team is on vacation.
Yes. Well,
it apparently started last week that they went on vacation.
Yeah, no, that was pretty brutal. But the whole wild card week was, for the most part, a series of blowouts, with exception of the Cowboys-Niners. That was an interesting game. But yeah, that's good for drag racing, right? We can focus now. And Tampa, they're not my team. We got the Miami Dolphins, and they did worse than your team. So don't worry about it. All right, Alan, we'll see you soon.
Take care, Joe.
There he goes, Alan Reinhardt. Thank you, Alan. Alan joining us here on WFO Radio. All right, I got to get out of here. I got a car that's got to be towed. I got to get a tow truck. Is going to be about to be here any second, right? Water pump, Firebird. No time for me to do it. I'm going to send it out. But here's what we got. I got a WFO Christmas card. I went over to the P.O. box today, and I had been to the P.O. box since Christmas. Thank you very much. But this was not in there for whatever reason. But from Mark. Mark says, Merry Christmas, Joe, and Happy New Year. Really enjoy the show. I am an Apple Podcast listener and subscriber, and I just started drinking Rodax coffee. Have a great holiday, says Mark. There it is, Rodax coffee. Right? How great is that? I love getting stuff like this. And this one from Don Bangs, who is a racer. Great. What is this? Great meeting you at Epping earlier this year. Looking forward to a Winter Circle interview in 2022. Keep up the great work and enjoy the season. Thanks, Don Banks. And there's a bunch more on this side, but I'm not going to read all that for you guys. But thank you, Don. And what do they want? They want free WFO radio stickers, which we're down to the very last couple of WFO radio stickers, but you can still send a P.O. box. You can send a self-addressed stamped envelope to the P.O. box and get some free WFO radio stickers, because we are going to re-up for the stickers. But what a year it has been for the WFO radio stickers. You can just send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Castello Media /WFO stickers, P.O. Box 848-353, Pembroke Pines, Florida 33084. All right, put your comments in the comments section. Final comments before I get out of here. Also want to tell you about the Patreons. It's the start of the year. And so, like public television, right? We're going to make our big listener drive for regular WFO listeners to become patrons. And go to WFOradio.com, click Patreon, or join the Patreons. And there's a couple of different levels you can join. You get Monday Motivation. You get to participate directly with the Ignition show, which is audio only, but the Patreons get to watch and get to participate through the chat and all that. Plus, you're part of the WFO Radio Advisory Board. Just today, I sent out 50 packages to the patrons with, some stickers and some Patreon swag, but also random stuff, promotional things I've acquired over the years on WFO Radio. What lies ahead? NHRA 2022 and WFO 2022 for the patrons? I do not know, but it'll be worth your participation, helping out the show to pay those hard costs for everything that we do so we can sit here and talk to drag racers. Now, the sponsors who make it possible, like here on International Gourmet Coffee Day, Marvin Rodak, rodakscoffeeandgrills.com. Today would be a perfect day for you to pick up the phone and call 817-924-6821. Call Marvin Rodak. Tell him you heard about it on WFO Radio and you wanted to get in on International Gourmet Coffee Day and order a little gourmet coffee. He's got all kinds of styles of coffee, and I love them all, and I can't direct you there, except we have a WFO Radio blend that he makes, and maybe you'll like it. Plus Bang the Blower and countless others. The most exotic of coffees are available at Marvin Rodak's. And there's Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology, totalseal.com. Got a new episode of Hidden Horsepower getting ready to drop. So get out there and listen to the Larry Morgan one from PRI. But we got a new one that is getting ready to drop that I think you are going to love because it goes more science, technology than engines. And I'm going to leave it at that because you're going to love it. It's going to be a home run of an episode. And we got all kinds of great stuff coming out from PRI. This is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, audio only, Hidden Horsepower. And you're like, why aren't you telling me about the rings? The answer is, if you listen to the podcast, there's no chance you won't be desperate for some Total Seal piston rings in your engine, because every one of these heavy hitter engine builders, the best of the best, all agree on Total Seal piston rings. Matt Hartford, Keith Jones, Lake Speed, just kind of hearing and understanding the evolution of what thinner, more higher tech piston rings have done for engine efficiency and overall power. Bar none. TotalSeal.com. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure, something you got to do in 2022. You got to do in 2022. Dragster Adventure, FrankHawley.com. Give them a call. Tell me you heard about it on WFO. And finally, samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinist and Technology. Samtech, Brian Massengill. You're looking for a career. You're trying to figure out, man, I want to learn how to program CNC machines. They got you. EFI tuning, they've got you. They've got you. And hey, good luck to our friend Matt from Torque Calibration Services of Australia, who will be racing in the first event of their drag racing series down there at Sydney Dragway, Drag Racing Sydney. I was doing some research. Larry Dixon got the call because Damian Harris couldn't get out of the West Coast over there. They still got a lot of restrictions, right? I think they tried Novak Djokovic first, but it didn't work out. But Larry was obviously ready to go down there. And look at Larry. He had all his whatever you have to have, and he was able to get a visa last second, and he's going down there to run Top Fuel in Australia. And I'm going to really try this year to unite the drag racing universes even more so with Drag Racing Sydney and Drag Racing Australia and what's going on over there in the FIA stuff in Europe with our people over there. And if you are in those worlds, Drag Racing Europe, Drag Racing Australia, or Drag Racing wherever else. I know Stevie Fast has been over there in the Middle East right now. They're doing their Pro Mod series. We want to try to bring all that together a little bit better here in 2022. If you have thoughts, suggestions, ideas, concepts, please let me know, and we will be happy to make it happen. All right, let's see what your final comments are. That's all a big stall job for the final comments. Let's see. Going Bracket Racing has been heavily involved today. Pete Lanciers, who won the Edelbrock Never Rest Performer of the race. How about them getting a little residual sponsorship from let's hope they get the AFX formula right. Okay, so first of all, it's no longer AFX, Pete. It's Factory X. They've already changed, which I think is a great idea. Factory X. I am super excited about Factory X, and everybody is. Just under the surface, everybody's talking about Factory X. And most people feel like it's the new pro stock. It's just a matter of time before the change. I want to see some cars on track. I want to see the cars go. I want to see the whole deal. But the excitement that everybody's talking about, the fact that they're going to be using a Liberty and a clutch and all that, going to be amazing. Will they have, do wheelies? Will they have wheelie bars? Like, these are things we don't know. But everyone's excited about Factory X. And, Lonnie Grimm has been getting a lot of camera time with Brian Loans on the NHRA Insider stuff on NHRA.com. Lonnie is a friend and a really good guy. And I really think so far that Lonnie's influence in NHRA drag racing is very obvious. When you see Lonnie on there, he was involved in our contingency video that we did on NHRA.com because the sports and racers are leaving literally millions of dollars on the table because they're not understanding the contingency program. You can go watch the video, but if you are a Lucas Oil Series racer and you don't think that it pays enough. Maybe you're right, but you really don't get to complain if you're not claiming all the money that's already available, right? Like if you're going to make a point that there's not enough money available, but you're choosing to not claim the money that is available, it's kind of a difficult argument. And I'm learning a lot more about this. And, NHRA Racers got all the list of the contingency sponsors. And if you're going to build a car, I think you should start there. And you should have every part and piece that pays on your car and then go get that money after you win. Just something kind of interesting. Chuck says, the tuning technology has come a long way as well. Well, the tuning technology has come a long way for many reasons, but more reliable and consistent parts that last longer are one of the reasons why the tuning technology has been able to come along. It's really amazing how it's kind of a interesting circle. There'll be a big race over in Bradenton next weekend. Lyle Barnett says he's running the Turbo Pro Mod all year in 2022. Well, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? That Hairston machine that they brought out last year and they won a couple of races. It was competitive. He's got a little character. If you're side by side with him at 1,000 feet, you've basically lost. And Lyle is a great personality. I love it. Pro Mod going to be real interesting with the screw blower and all those combinations. Rick, 5 more Sundays. And then he and me are going to be hanging out in Pomona, California. And we're going to do a big WFO meetup. We've been talking about it on the Ignition Show. Reasons to listen to the Ignition Show. It's audio only, guys. It's not, you don't have to look at me. But we're planning a major WFO meetup at an event this year. Preferably one that Dave and Sue Morris are racing at, because we want to have somebody to cheer on. That's a WFO Patreon. And, obviously, we're trying to decide. Right now, the U.S. Nationals is looking like the leader, but it could be Vegas too. We do not know. And the Patreons will decide. This is not for us to decide. It's for the Patreons to decide. But we're going to do mini WFO meetups at every race. So, Rick, let's hang out in Pomona in 5 Sundays. Tony says drag racing is all about family. The days and nights at any level of racing and the milestones achieved along the way are priceless. So true, Tony. So true. We're still very small. You think about the NFL, Major League Baseball, and all these things. We're still very, very small. It's never more clear than at the Engine Performance Expo, where everybody there is connected to somebody who's connected to somebody. It's not even Kevin Bacon level. It's very, very small. We need to realize that within drag racing, we need to help each other. We need to all help each other as best as we can and get each other's backs. I was having a conversation with Tony Bischoff about the engine business, and, that's just a, name drop right there. But we were talking about the future and what the future holds for engine building and combustion. And it was interesting to hear, at first he was a little pessimistic, and then we talked a little bit more about it. So many people, we need to grow the entertainment level of this sport and grow the fan base. So here's what I would like to see NHRA do. And I'll just put it out there. It's just, we need to have like NHRA Day, where everybody wears their NHRA gear amongst, not at the race, like amongst their friends and family. So when they see Tim Wilkerson gear, they're like, what's that you're wearing? Well, that's my Tim Wilkerson shirt. Who's Tim Wilkerson? Tim Wilkerson is a funny car driver that runs 330 miles per hour. Oh, wow, that sounds fast. Where can I see it? Like, we need to have those things. We need to have bring your friends to the track. But like, and not official, but everybody that's going to buy a ticket to a race this year, bring a friend. If everybody brought one friend who had never been, and everybody's got those friends that think we're all crazies, that's how we grow. That's how we grow. Daryl says, God bless men. Yeah, and women. Great show today. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Monica. She's one of our patrons. Larry says, have a great afternoon. Chuck, have a good rest of the day, Joe, and good luck getting the Firebird back on the road again. Yeah, water pump. I had I was going to do it, and no, not doing it. Have fun. Be safe to everyone out there in Hot Rod Land. Happy hot rodding to all. Pete says, That unification idea is a winner. Joe, thank you very much. Hey, Joe Castello, way to go. Steve, Troy is soon to be bracket racer we've created work for him on the Ignition Show. He now does the Big Money Bracket Racing Minute on Ignition, and he gives results and details and highlights to Big Money Bracket Races on Ignition. So be sure to listen to Ignition for the Troy Big Money Bracket Racing Minute. That's how we roll with our Patreons. We find ways for them to participate in the show and better our whole thing. Inaugural DI Racer of the Year Awards nominee is full of heady hitters. Yeah, I saw the headline, didn't see the story just yet because we are on the air, but I'm going right to that right afterwards. Steve says, I've been adulting fan since 1970 when I was 10 years old. I've been a Dolphins fan since 1970 when I was 10 years old. Yeah, Dolphin fans, very sad for us. Love the new shirt. Thank you very much. This has been in the closet for a year, but I broke it out for this one and it's working out. It's bright. On the racetrack again. Steve been working, getting old. Everybody's getting old. And Alan Reinhart mentioned, like, guys thinking 1972 was better. And it's very psychological, guys. NHRA should partner with some independent media groups and get the word out more. I think they're doing a really good job, frankly, with all these independent media groups out there. But wheel standers and exhibition stuff. I love the wheel standers, but I love the jets. Great job, Troy. Glad your computer got fixed. Good show. What did I do to fix my computer? Nothing. It just woke up feeling like it wanted to work today. If you have a reason why it was messed up, please tell me so. But that is going to do it, guys. I'm going to go wait for a tow truck right now. Thanks to Total Seal, Road X. But here's the deal. It's psychological. Why do people think that the first time or early times that they experienced something like drag racing were the best times? Well, if you were young then and you're old now, it should be pretty easy. It's just that nobody wants to acknowledge that aging really stinks. And you've seen something for the 500th time versus seeing something for the 1st to 10th time. Of course, it's going to make a bigger impression on you. There was no TV. There was no color TV. It was rare. Like, seeing anything that was impressive was a much bigger deal back then, and those relatively boring times where everybody dressed the same and everything looked pretty much the same. And then you go out to the drag races and there's fire coming out of the pipes, and there's Jungle Jim and these amazing personalities and Candy Paint and Gold Leaf. Of course, it made this amazing impression on you. But now it's 40 years later, 50 years later. It's not going to be the same as it was, but it's still awesome. And the thing is that everybody that walks through the gate for the first time, they are wowed like you were wowed. The only difference is that back then, there was nobody saying, I'm used to it, because it was new. And every time someone goes on the web and says it's not as good as it was, or I'm not, which is code for I'm not reacting to it the way I did the first time, which is so true for everything, you're kind of diminishing it for everybody who is. Why would you do that? Don't do that. And that's my New Year's resolution for all of you out there. Don't diminish other people's fun. They're having a good time. Congratulations to Justin Ashley. Huge deal. Thanks for coming on WFO with the breaking news. We'll see you later on in the week. With who? I have no idea.